An Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said Ireland would continue to support the European Commission to reach a mutually beneficial trade agreement with the United States, following an announcement by US President Donald Trump that a 30% tariff is to be imposed on EU products from August 1st.
Since President Trump's so-called Liberation Day, the US has been engaged in tariff warfare with many countries. But climb downs have followed, escalating threats, and today brings yet another instalment. President Trump has now flagged blanket 30% tariffs for the European Union and Mexico from August 1st. This follows similar threats to Japan and other countries in recent days. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen responded on social media, emphasising the dual pain this would cause, saying such a move will hurt on both sides of the Atlantic, but she said we will continue working towards an agreement, and she also threatened countermeasures. Here, Taoiseach Micheál Martin gave his reaction, calling for resolution through respectful dialogue.
I've been in touch with President von der Leyen overnight. We do have countermeasures ready. Europe will have to defend its interests if necessary. But again, we would prefer a negotiated approach and a negotiated settlement.
The EU Trade Council meets on Monday when a formal response will be considered. But the question remains as to whether this is just a negotiating tactic, given that President Trump has backed down repeatedly in recent months.
It shows that Donald Trump thinks he can maybe get a deal by threatening to escalate. But I have to think, I think it will backfire.
Investors will be keenly watching market reaction on Monday. Sandra Hurley, RTE News.
Well, we're joined now by Danny McCoy, Chief Executive of IBEC, representing Irish business. And Danny, I suppose you, like many of your members, will be asking the question, will this go ahead, or can indeed talks succeed and get a deal done?
Hi, Ray. I'm sure eventually talks will get a deal done. But, you know, even if this is a tactic, President Trump is really eroding goodwill right across the world. And so, you know, even if you get a deal done by negotiation, can be certain that he'll stick to it and won't change his mind again. So it's a very unprecedented situation we find ourselves globally. And, you know, it feels very like a rogue country behaviour, attacking your good allies who are, you know, in good faith negotiating to put these kind of threats up there. So even if it is a tactic, it's something I think that will go badly wrong for the United States as well as everybody else.
And so on that basis, let's say these do go ahead and we will learn this week how Europe intends to retaliate. Just how bad would that be for Irish business?
Yeah, so we're an open trading nation and a lot of our wealth has actually been driven by globalisation. And so this is really eroding the fundamentals of the last generation. So it won't be good for Ireland. But the work that's been done so far, looking at tariffs off the scale of 25%, for instance, by the ESRI, showed that they would have the cumulative impact of about 3% in both growth down from the baseline and jobs growth. But I think what really is, going back to the point I made earlier, it's about investment. And it's what will happen in investment. Will you trust to put your money into the United States? I think we're going to see a fair bit of capital movement from the States, which is exactly the reverse of what President Trump is hoping to achieve. Also, markets have been very benign. They've been very complacent, as a lot of financial leaders have said this week. And I think that we probably will see some reaction in the markets this coming week, because I don't think anybody anticipated when the 90 days were done that we would have a complete trade deal, but we certainly would have anticipated being escalated like it has over the weekend.
OK, Danny McCoy, thanks indeed for speaking to us on 6-1 this evening.